Thanks for joining us. It's Friday, September 23rd here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Han. Our top story this morning, South Korea is urging the UN Security Council to take action against North Korea over the appalling way it treats its citizens. Seoul wants any new resolution targeting Pyongyang's recent nuclear test to include measures aimed at stopping the regime's well-documented human rights abuses. Kwon So-ah reports.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se says it's time for the UN Security Council to take its discussions on North Korea's human rights violations a step further and take, quote, meaningful action. Talking to reporters in New York Thursday, Minister Yoon criticized the regime for wasting money on its weapons development and conducting a nuclear test while asking the international community for aid due to the recent flooding that caused hundreds of deaths in the country. According to a South Korean government official, the UN Security Council is mulling whether to include Pyongyang's human rights abuses on a new sanctions resolution currently under discussion following the North's recent nuclear test. While it's the UN Human Rights Council that usually deals with human rights issues, the UN Security Council is the only organ of the United Nations that has the authority to issue binding resolutions to members. That's why the Security Council's approach to human rights issues has been under the microscope for a long time. Meanwhile, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe discussed modern slavery issues at a meeting Thursday, introducing North Korea's overseas forced labor. It said an estimated 50,000 North Koreans are currently working like modern-day slaves in 16 countries around the world. It's said to be the first time an international security agency has raised the issue as an official point of discussion. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
North Korea's test of a new rocket engine this week demonstrates that Pyongyang could potentially send unmanned probes to the moon. This is according to a U.S. missile expert in an article carried on the U.S.-based North Korea monitoring website 38 North. John Schilling, a top aerospace engineer with expertise on the North's missile programs, said even though the new engine isn't right for intercontinental ballistic missiles, the North has already demonstrated it and can build large rockets using both solid and high-energy liquid propellants. He said the new engine is too big and powerful for use in the ICBMs the North has been developing, such as the KN-08 and KN-14 road mobile missiles. But he added the new engine could be used in rockets for outer space missions. He said the world should start thinking about how to live with the North that has such capabilities. Korea's unionized bank workers are staging a strike to protest an adoption of a performance-based wage system. The general strike began an hour ago at Sangam World Cup Stadium in western Seoul. The government has been pushing to implement a system where salaries are based on performance to raise the sector's competitiveness. But the union argues that it's only aimed at maximizing short-term performance and will lead to unnecessary internal competition. The union, which claims 100,000 members nationwide, expects at least 70,000 workers to take part. Management expects only 30,000 to 40,000 to take part, stressing that it won't take a toll on daily banking operations. The union's last strike was held in 2014 in protest against what it called government-controlled finance. Nearly 8,600 foreign visitors were denied no visa entry to Korea's southern Jeju Island between January and the end of August. Data from the Ministry of Justice shows 1.3% of all applicants have been refused entry this year. The same ratio was a third of 1% in 2014. The Korean Immigration Service says most of those refused entry had not properly clarified the purpose of their visit, while some were found to be traveling on fake passports. Authorities believe some of these applicants try and enter Jeju illegally and then attempt to secure a job on the island or in other parts of Korea. Since the Jeju provincial government enacted its no visa entry policy in 2002, nearly 3 million foreigners have traveled there under the program, with 99% being Chinese nationals. Hundreds of people are believed dead after a boat carrying 450 migrants capsized off the coast of Egypt. The tragedy comes as a growing number of migrants are turning to Egypt as a departure point to get to Europe. Park Jong-hong has this report.
A day after the shipwreck, rescue workers are pulling up bodies, not survivors. 169 people were rescued from the Mediterranean, but hundreds more might have perished at sea. Sources say the boat was carrying almost 600 migrants fleeing Egypt for Europe, probably Italy, with the help of smugglers who reportedly added dozens more passengers before setting off. Overloading is believed to have caused the boat to sink. Egyptian police have detained 4 crew members ahead of an investigation. Officials say the boat was carrying not only Egyptian, but also Sudanese, Eritrean, and Somali migrants. Egyptian Prime Minister Sharif Ismail pledged the government will make every effort for the rescue mission and added those responsible must be brought to justice. In previous months, an increasing number of people have been trying to reach Italy from the African coast, especially Libya, where people traffickers are thriving. But Egypt has come under scrutiny as more and more migrants from sub-Saharan Africa are using it as an alternative route. The survivors cited a lack of jobs, low incomes, and political repression in Egypt as their reasons for fleeing the region. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
That does it for now. I'll be back with more headlines at 3 p.m. Korea time. See you then.